So, time to return to our tier list with today the rank 4 of the US tech tree. We have a lot of vehicles to cover, so let's get started right away. As per usual, we start with the light tanks, and our first customer is the M41A1 Walker Bulldog. This M41A1 is pretty much the same as the one in the German tech tree, except for the fact that it's slightly lower in BR because it doesn't have access to heat FS. Since we covered it already, I won't reiterate as to why this is a very good vehicle. The lack of heat FS shell, however, will drop it from A rank to B rank. Since you face very heavy armor around this BR, using mainly solid shot can lead to many shatters or bounces in traditional AP fashion. The next tank is the T92 and is an obvious A tier tank. Very low profile, has access to both heat FS and APDS, very fast, except in reverse, surprisingly good survivability for a light tank, and overall very annoying to deal with. Sitting at 7.0, this tank is a good pick against any late World War II or early Cold War vehicle you might face, and is very easy to play. A small warning, however, this tank starts with only APCR, which is horrendous, so be prepared to suffer a bit when grinding modules. Moving on to medium tanks, the first one is a Frankenstein monster, the M4T26. Imagine a Sherman, but instead of using a 76mm, it received a 90mm. I'll put this tank in C tier because its armor is a bit useless, like most Shermans, and carrying the 90mm doesn't really add much to this tank, especially since you can already use this cannon on lower BR vehicles, which have the same mobility or same survivability. Also, this tank is sitting alone at 6.0 without any other vehicle to support it, so feel free to not play this one. Feel also free to not play the T25, a folded tank with the M4T26. The T25 is just atrocious. It is a very sluggish tank when you play it stock, has zero survivability because the armor is once again useless. It looks ugly, and honestly at 6.3 you have way better options. I'll put it in D tier because I still have PTSD from the time I tried it. However, the next ones are worthy tanks to play in my opinion, the M26 and M46. I will treat them both at the same time since they are very similar. The M26 Pershing is a very good medium tank. It carries the 90mm, which you should be familiar with by now, but this time the armor is actually decent. You will still get one-shotted by most cannons at your BR and above, so you should consider playing carefully and not frontally engage your enemies too much. The Pershing shines at close to medium ranges. The M46 on the other hand gains access to heat FS shells, which will be the bane of enemy heavy armor and allow for a more sniping playstyle. The reverse gear is also much better on the M46, and the trade-off of being put at 7.0 is not much of a big deal. The M26 will go in B tier, while the M46 will go in A tier. We now reach the heavy tank line, and the first one is a familiar sight. The Jumbo 76, or M4A3E276W, is the same as the 5.7 Jumbo, but this time it trades the 75mm for a 76mm. This tank is for me very good, but its effectiveness drops significantly when not in a down tier. Typically the Jumbo feels very weak when facing tanks like the Tiger II for instance, and will also struggle to kill it. Its armor is no longer reliable, and the 76mm is no longer very effective on a vehicle like the Jumbo. I'll put this one in C tier. The next heavy tank, however, is a straight A tier, the Jumbo Pershing. This tank is a nightmare for German teams to deal with. It is pretty much Pershing, but with a much more powerful frontal armor, able to bounce shots from the 88mm from Germany or the 122mm from the Soviets. The firepower stays the same as the regular Pershing, which is honestly not a big problem, and the mobility is slightly worse as well. For a heavy tank, it is very good, and if you like bouncing shots, this tank was made for you. The Super Pershing is next on our list. The T26E1-1 is also an A tier tank. It uses a different 90mm cannon, firing a much more powerful APHE shell, capable enough to deal with anything at its BR and above. Despite being classified as a heavy, I wouldn't rely too much on its armor however, for it is not as strong as the Jumbo Pershing. Consider the Super Pershing like a tank destroyer with decent armor, but do not test your luck too much. Oh, and also bonus point for how cool it looks. The last heavy tank is the T-34. This one is radically different from all the vehicles you played so far. This tank only fires AP, but a very powerful AP. The shell fired by its 120mm cannon is powerful enough to go through many opponents frontally, but since it's at the end of the day AP, the post-penetration damage is not always there. On top of that, the T-34 has a very long reload and is a very big target. The mobility is decent for a heavy tank and the armor as well, but it's not enough for me to put it in A tier when you have way better options at 6.7. This one will go in B. Our only SPA today is the Skink. This entire sucks. It's pretty much a winnable win, but instead of being at 3.7, it's at 5.3. The main weakness of this SPA is that you can't fire continuously. Your belt depletes very fast and then you have to reload, leaving you vulnerable for a few seconds. You'd think this SPA has better armor because it's not an open top, but you'll still get penetrated by planes. It should probably go in D tier, but since there are no other alternatives or no other SPAs between this one and at least 7.3, I'll put it in C tier. Finally, tank destroyers. The first one is the M109A1. This version of the M109 uses a longer 155mm gun, improving the velocity of the shells and making aiming at long range slightly easier. Like the one in the German tech tree, it's an A tier vehicle. Capable of blasting both tanks and planes with ease, no matter the BR, with good speed and mobility, and an armor that refuses to fuse APHE shells that penetrate it. Moving on to the M56 Scorpion. This little tank destroyer is discarding survivability for speed. This tank is very small, very agile, and most importantly very fast. It has access to a very potent Heat FS shell, which at 6.7 is great for dealing with heavy armor or to overpressure squishier targets. As you can expect, you can't survive shots in this vehicle. Not even machine gun shots, since your crew is very exposed, so you must play stealthily and flank as much as possible. Still, an easy A tier tank destroyer. Like the T-92, I think this one also starts with only APCR, which, well, sucks, but you have access to scouting to gain points for free, so it's not that bad. Our last tank today is the M50 Ontos. A light vehicle carrying 6 recoilless rifles firing heat anti-tank grenades. The penetration of the heat shells is powerful enough to even penetrate a mouse turret, and you can fire 6 pretty much instantly. I might be wrong on that, but I think the big issue is that you can only reload when all 6 are fired. You also don't carry too much ammunition, so you'll have to use the ammo box quite often. It remains a very fast, very small rat tank, once again with next to no survivability, so typically players use this one before jumping into a plane. I'll put it in D not because it's that bad, but for its niche uses. It's a meme vehicle basically. After all, this is also what the D tier is for. And that's it for rank 4. As you can see, this rank is much more varied, and I think the entirety of rank 4 is only good for 2 lineups. One at 6.7 and one at 7.0. As always, I hope this list was helpful to you, and with that said, I'll see you in the next one.